Great story here from Alex Stein, primetime Alex Stein over at The Blaze. Alex Stein is suing Congress Lady Alexandria Ocasio Cortez for blocking him on Twitter. Now, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez blocked Alex Stein on Twitter, presumably because he filmed himself on the steps of the Capitol yelling about her booty and how she's a hot, sexy Latina. And she actually briefly appeared in the video and sort of waved. And then it was a charming moment. She was being somewhat self-effacing. And then immediately she started lamenting this and accusing him of all sorts of things. So she blocked him, I guess, shortly after that. And Alex Stein is suing for this. I think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez probably had good reason to block Alex Stein after he made all of these fairly crude comments to her. But the reason Stein is doing this is because a bunch of libs sued over Donald Trump blocking them on Twitter. And they said that it is a violation of their rights as citizens to have access to this information from a public official. And so Stein is applying that same principle here to AOC. And when it comes to that kind of a political game, I say what is good for the goose is good for the gander. This is something I've been talking about certainly a lot this week, but I've talked about it a lot before as well. We have to go on offense. We have to be politically offensive, not just defensive. There is no neutrality, so you're never going to just preserve a status quo. In time and space and history, the circumstances of politics are always changing. Are they changing for the better? Or are they changing for the worse? Are they changing for what our opponent wants? Or are they changing into more of our political vision? You've got to be on the offense. If you're always just playing defense, that's how you go from feminism to the sexual revolution to redefining marriage to transgenderism to now the debate over transgenderism really hinges on, can we trans the 5-year-olds or do we have to wait till they turn 8? That's where the debate is right now, which means that the libs have already won on transgenderism. In fact, that's why my speech at CPAC caused such a stir. That's why the libs had to libelously accuse me of advocating for genocide or whatever they're saying now. They had to lie about what I said because what I said was very simple and it offended their sensibilities. I said, you haven't really won on transgenderism. I know there are some conservatives who in their rhetoric have already conceded that ground. I'm not willing to do it. Transgenderism at every single level, at every single stage for everybody is absurd. It isn't true. We should not indulge it anywhere in society. And they lost it. They thought they had won that battle. They thought conservatives were just going to be on defense. And then the battle was going to be not should we trans the 5-year-olds or the 8-year-olds, then it was going to be should we trans the 2-year-olds or the 3-year-olds, and eventually they'd win the whole thing and they'd move on to the next bizarre idea they have. You've got to stay on the offense. That's what got me into trouble. There's a liberal Republican by the name of Charlie Sykes. He used to write for the Weekly Standard before that went out of business. And he was a prominent name in conservative politics 20, 30 years ago. Now he works for the Bulwark and Bill Kristol and advocates all this sort of liberal stuff. But Charlie Sykes, in his reaction to my CPAC speech, said, Knowles could use a different word. He could have said that we should challenge, confront, oppose, resist, or push back against transgenderism. Instead, he chose to use the word eradicate. That's true. Charlie Sykes is right. I could have chosen a word that implied that we would put up a modest little fight against the left's new assault and then ultimately concede. That's what the right and the conservative movement have done pretty much for the last 30 years. We confront, we push back a little bit. Hey, the libs want to upend all of society. They want to reorder the fundamental political institution, redefine it. They want to push gay porn on our kids in schools. They want to let all the criminals out of prison. They want to open up our border. Okay, well, we can't really fight. We can't stop that. We can't eradicate those crazy ideas. No. Would you mind if we just pushed back a tiny little bit? Just a little, please, then we'll stop. Then we'll concede again, don't worry. Please. No, I have no interest in that. I want to win. That's what offended them so much. The libs and the squishes, like Charlie Sykes, It offended them because we're using the language of winning. Of no, we're not only are we going to stop the left's latest assault, we're actually going to push them back a little bit. We're going to go after something that they thought they had already won. That's the language that they don't like. And that's the language that we have to use. Ronald Reagan made this point really, really well. He said, when you're explaining, you're losing. Kind of ironic, because right now I'm explaining this strategy. But I'm explaining the strategy to fellow conservatives to articulate the point Ronald Reagan was making. When you're explaining, you're losing. When you're defensive, when you're defending, you're losing. You've got to keep pushing forward. Well, okay, maybe, you know what, actually, I just meant to say I push back a little tiny bit. No, I meant what I said. I meant eradicate the whole ideology. It's a preposterous ideology. I'll be talking about that a little bit tonight up at the University of Buffalo. The libs up at the University of Buffalo are trying desperately to shut down my speech up there tonight. There have been all sorts of movements to get the administration to cancel it. The faculty have tried to shut this thing down. Some of the crazy anarchist activist types are trying to make threats to shut the thing down. We're going up there. I'm flying up to Buffalo immediately after this show. And the topic is actually feminism that we're talking about, not transgenderism, but it's all kind of related. You've got to keep pushing. You've got to, the libs say they're not going to stop at banning transgender surgeries for 5-year-olds. They're going to push it to 18-year-olds. And once they do that, they're going to try to articulate a coherent view of marriage again. And then once they do that, these terrible conservatives, they're going to try to restore a normal sexual order again. And maybe they'll try to rein in some of the divorce laws. And maybe they'll try to rein in some of the crazy aspects of the sexual revolution. And maybe they'll deny the false premises of feminism. And my answer to them is, you're damn right. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're either going to do that or we're going to surrender everything. Those are the only two options, though. There's no middle ground on. There's no neutrality. There's no status quo. And we have to do that because the stakes are very, very high. The rest of the show continues now. We have got a very important woke TikTok for you. Yesterday was Woke Wednesday. We were on the road, couldn't quite do it, so it'll be Woke with Thursday. We will get to that. We will finally get to speak to you in the chat, mercifully. Become a member. Use code Knowles, dailywire.com/Knowles for 2 months free on all annual plans.